Hi, I'm Anoush Froundijian and welcome to ZirZameen. In this episode, we're going to introduce you to three individuals living in New York City who have broken out of societal norms to create something different, something worthwhile. One an activist, another a performing artist, and finally a filmmaker on YouTube. In September of 2011, the execution of Troy Davis, a death row inmate from Georgia, caused numerous protests around the country. For Sarah Quinn, an anti-death penalty activist, this event also spiraled her into the Occupy Wall Street movement. Today, she has taken a more personal approach to her death penalty activism by way of letter writing.
My name is Sarah Quinn, and I am an activist based out of New York City. I'm basically a human rights, a civil rights activist, more so within the criminal justice system and capital punishment. I accidentally got involved in the Occupy Wall Street movement. A week and a half after the encampment started at Zuccotti Park, I found myself involved in a demonstration for Troy Davis, a man who was executed in Georgia. We were met with like a heavy police presence with rubber bullets and riot uniforms. I hadn't seen anything like that before, so I was like, wow, they're doing this, just for a little old protest. What I didn't realize is that we were making our way down to Zuccotti Park. People were running in the streets. We're breaking laws here, but what the f is the point of getting your point across if you don't break a few laws while you're doing it? A lot of the people that were participating in the march were people that were involved in Occupy Wall Street. And I found myself in the middle of the park. It was an amazing presence. It was very emotional and exciting. I felt like it's important to have a place like this when it comes down to activism in the country. Have like a home base where you can have kind of like solidarity, other like-minded folks or other folks that aren't so like-minded. And that's kind of when I realized like, well, I'm gonna stay. Even if I didn't feel like I was on the same level as some of these people, I knew that we can all really kind of come together and discuss things and maybe come up with something wonderful. You could show up at 3 o'clock in the morning and somebody would be sitting there talking about what they've gone through. I met a woman from Bermuda and a man from Ohio, and their stories kind of changed my life. There's a difference between getting it in person and getting it on the internet. I mean, there was nothing better than seeing someone who worked on Wall Street walk by and just curious, just wanted to know what was going on and was able to walk through the park and kind of, pick things up from people, and maybe that would sculpt the way they saw things. Towards the end of September, October, there was kind of a buzz going around about just the way the men were treating the women at the encampment. Not only the people within inside the park, but also the police officers that were stationed there 24 hours a day. And I felt like they were leaving everyone up to their own devices and like watching the late nights crumble. My energy was good energy, and if I can keep the good energy within that park, then maybe I can salvage some sort of relationships that people were having with each other, maybe keep it positive. So I started to stay. I wouldn't sleep, but I would stay at this one tent that was set up for women and just kind of make sure that at least one part of the park women felt safe. Even though we're not pulling the lever or pressing the button, we are still all responsible for the executions in this country. We create our government and we create our rules, and through that we are responsible for what the criminal justice system and the government does to our citizens. Whether they have raped and murdered someone or not, we are still collectively murdering them. The Supreme Court denied me. So as of this moment, I have no pending appeals. His name is Robert Lynn Pruitt. I felt like I needed to have a personal encounter with someone on death row. I picked a state where I know that the men are held in the most oppressive conditions, which is Texas. They're held in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day. They have no human contact with anyone whatsoever. So I simply just went onto the Department of Texas Correctional Facility, and I picked somebody who was close in my age. I figure if I'm going to write someone, I want to be able to have some sort of mutual connection with them. It was kind of nerve-wracking writing a letter to somebody you know is going to die. I wrote the letter and it took about 3 weeks to get a response, and since then we've been writing maybe twice a month. I don't live in fear or worry of an unknown future. Besides, everyone will die. No sense in fretting over when my time will come. I'd rather spend my moments in a positive, happy frame of mind. I don't smile for the world and cry in the privacy of my cell. Okay, maybe I do cry sometimes when I hear a sad story or something. Life is still beautiful to me, and I'm still the upbeat, humorous dude I've been for quite some time. I'm still living in the moment, you know? After a few weeks of writing to each other and kind of forming a friendship, he had asked if I would be interested in being put on his visitors list. It scared me, like the idea of going down there scared me, but something in me just said, you have to say yes, you have to do this. You're alive once, and he's alive once, and he's gonna be alive for a much less amount of time than you will, so you might as well, you know, give this a try. It'll be an experience, a learning experience. So I agreed to it, and then we've become so close that he asked the question of, if this will benefit you in any way, if this will help you within activism or being able to speak out in regards to capital punishment, would you be interested in attending my execution? If I'm against it now, I can't imagine how I'd feel if I actually watched it happen in front of my face. But I haven't really decided yet because it's horrifying. Capital punishment keeps me awake at night. I can't imagine going there, forming a relationship with someone who I think is just an incredible person, and watching him be put down by the state. I don't know how I would be able to, you know, kind of pick myself up and keep moving forward.
There are many people who come up with ideas, but very few that take the daunting step of executing them. Anoush, an improvisational performer, came up with the idea of covering herself in paper and asking people to sign it. Shy about it at first, Anoush soon learned that this project could become a way for her to connect to other people.
Hi, I'm Anoush, and I'm just here to tell you why I have all this stuck to my body. I went to Lincoln Center Plaza for Fashion Week. I asked everybody if what you're wearing can speak, what would it say? So I got all these different answers. You'd be surprised how much people actually like being asked to write something or being asked to share something. It helps to have paper attached to you because they'll be like a little bit more interested. But otherwise, if you're just walking around normally and you talk to a person that relate to somebody, oh my God, they will tell you so many things. The first time I did it, I covered myself in yellow Post-its and just have a sign that says, you know, hi, my name is Anoush, write or draw anything. I called a friend of mine who does improv with me, and I was really scared. I was scared that on top of looking like an idiot, an artistic idea would have failed, or like some vulnerable need or want to express yourself would, like, visibly would have failed. She goes, well, treat it like an improv scene. You're a performer. To be a good performer, like a good performer, is to be okay with looking stupid. Okay, so now we're gonna ask a bunch of people what their superhero names are. Like, if you could have any power in the world, what would it be? So if you could, like, figure out a name for that, like wall walker, right? And like fly girl. It's also a collaborative process between the people writing. I go to a place and I'll ask one question. As the next person writes, they'll be like, oh, what did this person write? Oh, how can I play off of that? I had no expectations when I started doing this, but I remember when I would ask people for their opinions of, like, hey, I have this idea, I'd always just say, I have to do it. I just really have to do it. I don't know exactly why, because I know it's definitely not like I want to shock everybody with this amazing idea. It was more like, it would be good for me if I did this. And I think I can get better somehow, because it's made me better at relating to people, or has made me realize that I am good at relating to people. I think if you have an idea for something, honor it, but write it down. Use Post-its if you want, gum wrappers, whatever. Don't write it down like you're a writer, just write it down.
Our last profile is about a filmmaker who became well known for making videos and posting them online. So well known, in fact, that Neistat has been hired by prestigious companies like HBO and Nike. Earlier this year, Casey took the budget Nike gave him and traveled around the world without consulting Nike first. But he came back with one of the most successful videos to date, an accomplishment that Nike was more than pleased with. Amidst all of this success, Casey still considers the more difficult moments of his life to be the most valuable.
My name's Neistat, and I make movies. I have been making movies since Apple came out with the iMac, the pink one that you could edit videos on. In March of 2000, Van and I took our tax returns and both bought iMac computers. iMac DV computers. We maxed out our credit cards buying video cameras. And we taught ourselves how to make movies. We had no money, just our cameras and our computers, and we got all this attention. iPod's Dirty Secret was the first video that I did. I made it with my brother in 2003. It was the first video that I did that really got exposure, and it was about how, like, second generation iPods, you couldn't replace the battery. It kind of went viral before viral was a real thing. And I think that movie was a platform for my brother and me to get out there. And after that, we had a lot of eyeballs on us and showed a lot of the other work that we did together. Every single shot is all in camera. No After Effects. No effects at all. That's it. I get asked a lot where my filmmaking style came from, and I attribute that to never being taught the right way. And when you don't know the right way, you're forced to invent methods to get to the same place. And I think that has sort of yielded the way in which I do things. And I think to maybe describe that aesthetic, it's kind of a DIY, very handmade, almost like a neo-Luddite, a resistance to embracing technology. If I had to describe what adulthood and what growing up and what being a grown-up means to me now, I would describe it as like my singular goal as an adult is to realize all the promises I made to myself as a kid. And I never lose focus of that. And a lot of those promises were made while playing on the railroad tracks, or wishing I could do something, or wishing I had something, or wishing I could be somebody. I ran away from home when I was 15, got my first girlfriend pregnant. I had a kid when I was 17. When my kid's mother broke up with me when I was like 19 years old was when I just kind of said, I need to go for it. And that was when I moved to New York City and decided to make a life doing what I want to do, exactly what I want to do. Prior to that, I was living in a trailer park, washing dishes for a living. It was a good life, but I wasn't doing what I wanted to do every day when I woke up. I moved to New York City June 1, 2001. I had a 3-month sublet that I had to move out of on September 1, 2001. I was sleeping on the couch of a friend's apartment 1.5 blocks south of the World Trade Centers. And I was asleep in that apartment when the plane hit. The apartment was kind of destroyed. I made it out. September 11th, 2001 was a turning point for decision making in my life, meaning I had risked everything to move here. I had not found success in 3 months. And it was at that moment that I was like, life in New York City is not going to get any harder than it is right now. And if I can figure out how to get through this, no matter what else gets thrown at me, it will be a piece of cake. And that's when things started to turn around. We'll definitely make this flight, but we're cutting it close. So far the trip is off to a fairly irresponsible start. I was hired by Nike to make 3 videos about their new fuel ban. And the first 2 videos were fairly straightforward. And the third video is a little bit more off the cuff. And I'd given them a script for what the video might look like. And then at kind of the 9th hour, I just said, I don't want to make that video. I want to do something else. And the tagline we had come up with for this entire campaign is make it count. I've got a Nike budget. How can I make this count? If I could do anything in the world right now with this budget, what would I do? And that is exactly what I did. And I grabbed my editor, my filmmaking partner, and we just jumped on an airplane and flew around the world until the budget was gone. I value experience over just about everything else. Just got to Rome. Education is for the mind what experience is for the soul. And I think to like shape a human being, you have to experience things. And experience isn't always going on expensive trips to other sides of the world, but I think experience is understanding and being able to empathize with other people's cultures. And I know probably the most valuable experience I have my entire life is being on welfare and struggling and having no money, having no rich parents to turn to, having no trust fund, being up against the wall and figure out how to survive or face destitution. Those are the only 2 options. There's no plan B. It's the single most valuable experience in my life. People think, you know, well, you get to travel and do all these fun things, which I do, which are wonderful. But those are blips on the radar screen compared to really sort of being in a tough place in life. It was kind of a long, tumultuous path that I still very much so think that I'm on. I mean, I have this fancy studio and lots of YouTube views, but the rug can be pulled out at any time, and I wouldn't trade it for much.
And this was our second episode. If you want more information about the artists and activists featured on our show, make sure to check out ZirZameen on one of our many social media websites. Thanks for watching ZirZameen. See you next time.
I wanted to have that, discussion about activism and such, but it actually turned into a friendship based on discussing just human behavior.
And the single thing I love doing more than anything else is making movies and putting them on the internet.
Yeah, she said, I want to find love. And he said, I want to find this girl. Arrow, right after.
Today, she has taken a more personal approach to her death penalty activism by running. Running!